Welcome to Devalued with Mike and Caroline, the place where we talk about art and money and how creative people are navigating the ever-changing landscape of trying to make a living for their work.
We're going to be interviewing all types of creative people, and we'll be talking about all types of issues that creative people face. We hope you'll get something out of it. We're excited to welcome you to Devalued. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Caroline.
Who are we talking with today?
We are talking to the legendary David
Kilgour. There was some discussion about the pronunciation, but according to David, that is how his mother pronounces it, and that's how we will pronounce it also.
We're honoring his mother's pronunciation of his name.
Yeah, he was lovely. I really like him.
Yeah, he is one of my all-time favorites. Like, if I don't know what to listen to, I'll put on one of his albums, and it always just works. It's so beautiful and spacey, open-ended music. Like, there's really nothing like it that I have come across.
There's an element of fun to him. Warmth. And I think that comes across in his music, too.
Yeah, for sure. Like, the Clean are very jovial. And a lot of times on his solo work, it's so, like, loosey-goosey and open that it's like, this guy clearly has a sense of humor, and he's very, he's almost like a hippie, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe a punk rock hippie.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Kind of having that mindset of life will provide. Things will happen. I will grow. Everything will be okay. I really liked hearing that, and it made me feel inspired to keep doing creative pursuits myself.
Yeah, it was a beautiful conversation, and we hope you like it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on.
Absolutely.
You're the first guest who's early, so that's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm an early kind of guy.
You don't find that much in musicians, really.
That's true.
Well, not really. No, I'm terrible. I like to be there nice and early. I drive everybody crazy. How is it there anyway? How's Nashville?
It's amazing.
What's the weather like?
Perfect.
It's like 65. Yeah. It's really nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
When were you here last?
Gee, that's a very good question. Maybe 5 years ago. 5 years ago, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Really? Were you playing?
With the Clean. We played with the Clean about, maybe even longer, maybe 6 years ago. I mean, yeah, the last 3 years is a blur, but yeah, we played at the Stone Fox.
Yes,
which is closed now, right?
That is closed now, unfortunately. Yeah. I was playing a show that night, and it's one of the biggest regrets of my life not going, because I was like, oh yeah, they'll be back, and I didn't realize you guys were from New Zealand at the time.
Cool. That's nice.
And then I totally blew it.
So we like to kind of start off asking, do you think music and money have a natural relationship?
No.
Like, describe.
But then I could also say yes, you know.
Right. Like, why do you think music and money don't go together?
Why they don't go together? I guess because, you know, when I'm making it, I'm not thinking about money. I can only say from my perspective, really. Yeah. Right. It's not money. But yeah, I suppose. But I mean, you know, like art and money, I mean, it's an old argument, you know. What comes first? What's important? Are they related? All that stuff. Yeah. It's a good question.
I mean, one of the few interviews that I saw on YouTube is like right around the time when Sugar Mouth was coming out in like 1993, I think. And you were saying that you really just wanted to make it as a songwriter, and you wanted to make a living. And I was wondering, all these years later, like, did that happen? Did you get into a better place? Because it seemed at the time like, you know, you were looking for a US label to put that record out. You were looking for more traction. And
yeah.
In all those years since, like, are you in a better place now?
Yes. Bowman a better place. I remember that period of maybe the late 80s and the 90s, just trying to find my feet again, really, after being in the clean and doing other projects like Great Unwashed, etc. But yeah, there's some tough years there financially. But I could see there was a way to do it because I could see other people were getting there, people that I knew were managing to get by. And I thought, what's possible? Yeah. All I really wanted to do was get by and pay my bills and have somewhere to live and keep making music. And it happened. Too thick and thin.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things, like when I was researching you too, you were saying that when the clean was getting started and the whole like Dunedin scene, that whole scene took place because of unemployment. Like there was an oil crisis at the time, and all these bands got together because there weren't a lot of jobs.
There's a little bit of that there. I mean, it was just different times, really different times, I suppose. No internet, nothing like that, etc. That has something to do with it. There were a lot of different things that sort of added to it. I think it's always been a student town. There's a big university here, and the city pretty much survives off that university in some ways. Because of that, there's always people coming in and going out from all over the place, even overseas students and that. So it's always had that kind of vibrancy here. And I think back then there wasn't a lot to do. I mean, there was the movies and TV. There were 2 TV channels, and they started at 2 in the afternoon and then finished at 10 at night. Stuff like that, pretty basic stuff. So there wasn't a lot to do. So I think, being unemployed, having not a lot to do, definitely helped. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it was a huge. I mean, it's definitely a fact. I would say, generally throughout the 80s, the Dole financed the New Zealand music industry for quite a while, really. Yeah, because you could just about get away with being on the Dole and be a musician. I mean, they found out about the clean eventually because we kind of got famous here, and tracked us down. Because we were touring and getting the Dole, so it definitely helped.
And then you started working with the label, Flying Nun, and that kind of grew, obviously, alongside the band. And you had worked with bigger labels later in your solo and band work. Was that helpful to work with a label and have someone kind of fund some of these projects while also holding you accountable financially?
The interesting thing with Flying Nun, which is the first label we dealt with, was they were learning about at the same learning level that we were at. So, Roger, who started the label, he probably knew as much about the business as we did, which is very little really. Although Roger, worked in a record store, he probably knew that side of things, how to get records around the country, etc., and how to sell them and profit margins. But they were learning at the same time, so it wasn't until later I had to deal with some kind of larger labels. I mean, some of my friends were dealing with huge labels from Warner Brothers, etc. I never quite got to that level, although there was interest from labels, and there was a little bit of dialogue with people, of all people, Rick Rubin's label, American Records. That's another story. But yeah, I never had to deal with huge labels. Certainly had to start dealing with industry types, like serious music industry people. I guess that's what you call them. And that was a learning curve, And learning about the industry, that was a long time. It took me a long time to learn about publishing. And, what were songs and who owned them and what part, all that stuff, yeah. So I didn't really wise up for about 10 years, really, as far as all that goes. Yeah.
And so, how does that work? Because I know that you've always been so collaborative, and the Clean, it seems like all of your songs originate from jamming and ownership and jamming. How do you guys work that out, and how does that differ from when you collaborate with somebody like Sam Hunt and things like that?
I think with the Clean in the early days, there was a bit of jamming. not nearly as much as in the later years, where because we'd always get together very short periods, generally not take anything in and try and come up with stuff on the spot. In the old days, we were trying everything. We were writing songs and bringing songs in, and more parts of songs and jamming and stuff. We weren't really a jam band as such then, although live we were. But as far as writing went, yeah, it was a bit going on. But definitely in the later years, we were doing a lot of that jamming. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Well, like, how do you share ownership when the songs originate from jamming and things like that?
We just all split it 3 ways. Yeah.
That keeps the fights to a minimum, probably.
With the clean, we just always had that rule. We'd share everything, no matter who wrote what. Which worked out. It really did. Some people say you shouldn't be democratic like that because people get bitter and twisted about stuff down the line. Like, I wrote that song, why am I sharing it? But it's really worked out with the clean. Yeah. Collaborations with Sam Hunt. I mean, Sam, they were all his words. So, we just split the songwriting, really. I made the music, so that was pretty easy. Generally just try to share things out. Unless it's plainly obvious you've written and produced something yourself. Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if the financial part kind of inhibits the natural collaboration process now, since you have to think about that so much kind of going into it, because for a band to succeed these days, you kind of have to have some knowledge of publishing and where that money goes.
Yeah, definitely. You have to know so much more these days about everything, I think, to try and make money. You're right. If you're really dead serious about it, sure, you do have to think about all that stuff. I mean, luckily we didn't really have to back then, I suppose, get too involved. But now you almost be your own manager and label in some ways, publicity person.
Yeah, it's hard to make money in the industry up into a certain point. And even then it's still hard because you're having to split it with a whole team and all the middlemen.
It's always so hard. It's just always been hard for musicians. Always been really hard, and artists since time began, really. But when it became free, music, you can start streaming it for free. I mean, it just became incredibly hard. Just suddenly, some people's income just disappeared. All of it, half of them. Some people's income, whatever, disappeared as well. So. This became really, really hard. I don't know how people do it, start out these days. I guess they've become internet savvy and I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about, like streaming, because streaming seems to be like a double-edged sword. Like, obviously all the royalties go away, but your reach expands significantly. Like you could reach people that may have never have had access to your music, or they might stumble across it. And so you're reaching all these ears that might have never heard it, and so that must be a positive.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a really positive thing. I mean, people have been recently pulling out of Spotify. Well, people like Neil Young and a few people have followed him, and quite a few of my friends moan about Spotify and they say I'll never go there. And I say, well, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to get the music out there and are struggling, and it's. Like I say, it's a really good, healthy thing. So again, it's a double-edged sword, but I think generally it's a great thing. You just get your music out to so many people. You might be making less money, but
I know in Australia, and I'm not sure about New Zealand, but the government seems to value artists and musicians a little differently by having a lot of available grants, and some countries have universal basic income for artists. Do you have that there?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do. There's funding for artists and musicians which you apply for in the government. Millions of dollars every year. Yeah, it's actually quite an important part of our culture here, really. Is that government funding. It always has been, really. Whereas I notice in America, there's not a lot of that.
No, we have GoFundMe for when people get sick.
Yeah,
well, that's really good. All those things are good. The Pledge Me, Fund Me things, I think they're all really healthy ways of survival. Sure. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, of course.
You're still waking up.
You're doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I mean, I have to ask what you think about the direction of the music industry today.
I think it's really hard, especially it's hard for anyone to make money. Like I was saying. Yeah. What do I think about it? What do I think?
Do you think the quality of art is as good as it was when you started out?
I think there's a hell of a lot more music out there, and there's a lot to get through to find the good stuff. That's my biggest hurdle. I'm always searching new stuff to listen to, be inspired by, and there is stuff out there, but it snatches little bits here and there. There's no one artist or one thing that's blowing me away all the time. But there's still great music being made, but it's so much to plow through to get to it. Yeah, I mean, I'm a mad Spotify user. I'm just go totally down the wormhole every week. So, I mean, I love all that stuff. But yeah.
Well, one of the things about Spotify that's weird is the fact that the business model seems to be you have to produce a lot of music all the time. And the CEO, Daniel Ek, I think is his name, was saying that, if you want to make money on Spotify, you have to just keep producing. And that doesn't really lend itself for like great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because like an artist like you might go several years without releasing a record.
Mm. His other argument also is the more people that sign up to Spotify, the better it will be for everybody else. The cut gets better. But that's his argument.
Yeah, I think
things will change. I think things will change. I think governments may start making laws that's actually pinpoint some of those unfair things that are happening there. I mean, to make $1 million on Spotify. Just more, a better cut. More money, really. More money,
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know, $1 a song. I don't know. Even a cent a song would do. Give me a cent for every time you listen to my song.
Right.
You can still go and buy it. You can still go and buy the hard copy, and you don't have to keep laying out on that 1 cent. I don't know. I don't know what you do, really.
What
do you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that, like, for sure there needs to be a better cut for artists. You have to incentivize artists to be able to make money, because I think a society that doesn't value art, and we're clearly not valuing musicians, is just going to be a poorer society in general.
That's the very good point. Yeah, you're not valuing anything anymore. Yeah.
I mean, because even as a painter, like the size of the album artwork on Spotify is diminished. It's like we're not even valuing like the cover design. Like there's no option to like click on it and make it bigger. It's really strange, right?
Yeah, I like all that stuff, the details, like the credits, and it's hard to find that stuff on Spotify if it's there at all. I like all that stuff about the cover.
Yeah, same. Because like, as a kid, like, we grew up in like the CD era, and we would have the booklet, and you would see like, oh, this person played a Gibson E335 or whatever on this song, and then you'd be like, I want to get one of those. And now without that, you're kind of left without any knowledge. Everything is anonymous, and so all this music becomes like it loses its originality because of that, I think.
I saw a tweet recently that said that someone's younger cousin or something had said that they don't have a favorite artist, they just have favorite songs. And they're not as much connected to artists and, exploring their whole collection of music or anything. So that's kind of a strange trend, I think.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because that's in some ways that's what's happened to me too. With Spotify, I'm listening to tracks more than a whole. Although if I do get stuck on something, sure, I'll check it out. But yeah, maybe that's why the vinyl's back. I don't know. I mean, it seems like, younger people are buying it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I've worked at a record store for a few years.
Shows are still really big. I mean, people go out to gigs and stuff, right? I mean, that's always there.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
But when the reissues for Unknown Country and Mr. Pop came out, that was very big for me. I rushed out and got those because I wanted to see.
They sold well. We were surprised.
Well, they sound awesome, and they're such awesome records, and it's like, it's strange that like the experience of listening to them on Spotify and the experience of listening to them on a record player is very different. You have to engage more.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I hope we can get the younger generation into vinyl. It's definitely like the better way to experience it, but you can't listen to it in the car, so that's tough.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I mean, maybe Spotify should have a function where, after song 5, it's like, you flip your phone over.
There's something will come along that will probably just wipe out Spotify. I mean, you know what? I was thinking the other day about MySpace. Do you remember the thing called MySpace?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Tom?
What happened to MySpace? It's probably still going, right?
I think somehow. Justin Timberlake bought it.
Yeah. And then it just...
He did.
Yeah.
And wow. I think he was going to try to turn it more into a music platform because there for a while, the music part of a page was very important. It's your representation of your personality at any given time. Someone visits your page, you got a song playing. And I think he was going to dive more into that, but it just didn't pick back up, I guess. But yeah, I think streaming...
Something could obliterate Spotify, you don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's not too far away where you could be able to, like, cut your own vinyl record at home or something like that.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or,
Yeah, I think some people are working on a different sort of trade system where maybe advertisers are paying... I don't know. It's some kind of system where your attention as a user is like your money. And so the band or the artist is getting it more directly as opposed to everything being kind of behind a screen.
So
maybe.
Just a more cooperative kind of setup, at least,
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that the reissues like sold well, and I know that Captured Tracks like put out that awesome anthology a few years ago too. Did you feel that more people were listening to you, that more people were discovering you when those things came out? I mean, did it work in that way, or do you feel like like what's your sense of it?
Not too sure, really. It's been hard to gauge in recent years, but I think the one thing that changed things for us in America was signing to Merge, really, and getting way back, getting anthology released on CD. It was a long time ago.
Yeah,
and then we started to tour a bit more, and touring with bands like Yola Tinko. And we were getting across to different people doing that. And then we started doing our own tours more, and then we started to make a bit of money and started to have our own little thing going. So it was a gradual thing, really, all that. But, the Captured Tracks release of the box set, that sold well as well. It's a real shame. We really need to remaster that one day, and there's a few things we can do. It's getting quite old. That remastering job is getting quite old now, and we look back at it now and we wow, especially for the vinyl, it should have been a better job. We should have done a better job with it. I think we've learned a lot since then, put it that way. And also now we've got our hands on the original masters, all that sort of technical stuff. So, but yeah, the anthology really got across to a lot of people, I think, in America especially. But then going back to the old days, when we signed to Rough Trade in America, and we reformed and made Vehicle,
which is awesome.
And that got released everywhere, like in Europe and America, and that turned a lot of people on in America to the Clean. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to ask is like your relationship with Merge and all these American artists that have been like boosters of yours over the years. And that's like how I discovered you, was like in an interview with Yola Tango. They were talking about you, and then I checked you out when I was in college. Like, have you felt a sense of like the audience growing over the years in America? I mean,
definitely. Oh yeah. Well, like I was saying, we got to the point where we could tour America, and then we started covering our costs, and then it got to the point where we said we'd come home with money. Yeah. And but we're quite a lean machine, really. We generally only tour with this four of us. We just tour with us three and a sound guy. We're a lean machine.
It's tough to make money on the road.
Definitely, the audiences are definitely growing. Doing sold out shows in reasonably sized clubs. Pretty cool.
That is cool. And are there any plans to?
After all these years, yeah.
I know.
Any
for
plans
sure.
to go back?
Yeah.
No
Any plans
to go back? No plans. But I personally would like to go back next year, but we'll see. Yeah, see some friends and stuff.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you too is like, when you release a new record, like you released "Bobby's a Girl" a few years ago, which is an awesome album. Like, what do you hope for a new album? Like when you release it?
I hope that people like it, and that it makes me a little bit. And maybe it'll make me a little bit of money. But yeah, I'm generally just glad to have got another. Sorry, the sun keeps moving around on me. We've got a cat over there too. You can see the cat.
Oh yeah.
What we're talking about?
Like your hope for a new album when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm just usually really pleased that I managed to put one out again. Because yeah, it's usually a trial. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple these days. I mean, sure, there was a time where I really used to hope that I could sell maybe 30,000 records, say, every time I put a record out around the world. Yeah. I thought I could get a living off that. I never quite got there, but it really in the last 10, 15 years, it really is just about the music. Really, I've been lucky enough to have people like Merge that still want to put the stuff out, so that's encouraging. But it really is just about the music, really. And it's such a pleasure to make it, and then put it out. Yeah, pretty simple.
So like creating it, you say, as a trial, but that's so interesting because when I listen to it, it feels very open and free, and it feels like, it's almost like it sounds as if it emerged like from out of nowhere, and I know that that's probably not true, but the feeling that I get from listening to your music is like, this is some of the most open, free music I've ever heard.
Right. Well, that's interesting. It's nice to hear that. I think the last few records have definitely been made like that. Those early solo LPs were, written and recorded, basically. These last, say, three or four? The last three albums, we've pretty much been trying to come up with as much stuff on the spot in the studio. Maybe we'd go in for like 2 days, might take in a song or half a song, maybe a chord progression, and then we try to come up with stuff for 2 days with that. So really trying to wing it as much as possible. Trying to get stuff recorded before we know what we're doing, really. That kind of idea, like record it before everyone exactly knows what's going on. Capture it while it's a little bit sort of, malleable. So, yeah.
To figure out how to sell it, do you kind of have to go back and look at the art again and figure out what it meant in order to explain it to people and give people context?
Not really, no.
That's somebody else's job. I feel like there's a lot of marketing mindsets that artists have to enter into today, even when they're in the studio, unfortunately. So they're having to kind of think about, okay, what interesting narrative can I come up with around this album so people will be able to understand it and care. But it's nice to hear that you don't necessarily have to do that.
Well, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I was being a bit flippant there, really. I was just thinking the last album, before it came out, I did realise I could say one or two things about it, and that the media would grab one or two of those things, and sure enough, it happened. But yeah, you just got to feed a little thing out, especially to the media. Next minute it'll be a little headline, or the music, wherever you see it, it'll be, So, right, I do think about those things sometimes with a record. Like, well, they're going to ask me, okay, what's going on with this record, David? So, you do start to think about that stuff. I'll say, okay, well, this one, is blah, blah, blah. Next minute, it's blah, blah. David Kilgour goes blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's just, media just loves a lot one-liner or a tag, or a good headline, So sometimes I think about it.
Well, it seems like your process has come back to what you were kind of doing in the very beginning. And this might be totally wrong, but like in the beginning, it seems like the Clean was this like improvisational, primitive band, and you got more and more into like refining songwriting over the years. Like when I listen to Frozen Orange, it's very different than Bobby's a Girl, because like all the songs on Frozen Orange are very put together. There's like stately arrangements on everything, and Bobby's a Girl's like more loose and open, and it's very relaxing to listen to, because like your mind just floats.
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to capture moments between people in the studio. That's what we have been trying to do. I got very tired of writing songs. There's the verse, there's the chorus, those sort of songs, but just songs in general. Oh, really? Do I have to write a song today? I've written so many songs. How many songs do I have to write? But I mean, there's that dilemma going on all the time, should I write any more songs? Do I need to write these songs? Why am I doing this? What is music? All that stuff. So it was to get away from all that. Like, come on, let's just get together and try and make some music. So, well, very hit and miss. There was times where we would, have 1 3-minute song after 2 days' work, and that might get thrown out anyway. So a wee bit hit and miss. But then other sessions, one session with Bobby's a Girl, maybe a third of the album was cut in like one night. And the whole vibe of the album was because of that one night, really. So
wow,
neat things do happen like that. Neat things happen.
Well, how do you...
But it's good to hear that you pick up on that looseness, because, it's loose. It's definitely loose.
No, and it's beautiful.
We would have a party. I mean, we'd have a little party. Recording was a little party, really.
But in a way, it's like these songs just emerge out of the air. I wonder, like, the editing process for them. Like, do you go back and add overdubs, or do you go back and like refine them, or are they just like organic performances that occur?
Generally pretty organic. I mean, because it's so, in the moment, sure, there were moments we have to fix up a wee bit, but we're trying to get that feel of everyone playing in a room together, that kind of magic. And if there's going to be an overdub, it better be a really good overdub, that kind of thing. Been trying to get the vocals done live too, but it's been a bit harder for me. But there's quite a few live vocals these days as well. So a lot of Bobby is just live. Few overdubs here and there, but yeah, we've been trying to get that band live feeling, sound.
Was being a professional musician your goal, or was it just something that kind of happened?
It was kind of because of punk rock. It really it made us realize we could possibly make music and have a go at it. But it was definitely, I wanted to make music. I wanted to have a life living off music and art. Sure. I didn't know what to do, when I was at high school, and I thought, well, I'll just try and be an artist, I suppose. And then punk rock came along, but okay, well, I'll try music. So yeah, it's been a lifelong ambition.
Did you ever have another job?
Yes, I've had a few jobs, yeah.
What were they?
Window cleaner. Window cleaning. That was my last real job, I suppose. But it wasn't just window cleaning. It was like, toilets, houses.
Was the Clean your like personal cleaning company brand?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? You'd think so. No.
Maybe in another life.
I was actually in the clean when I had that job.
Wow, that's genius.
Funnily enough. I really need to get close to the subject.
Yeah, I think it's hard sometimes starting out because it's hard to be patient, because you just want that hit, you want that success, you want to get out on the road and live the lifestyle that you think musicians get to have, and I think it's a good reminder that it's a lot of work and it's a journey, not a destination.
And it's fun, all that stuff. Going touring for the first time, jumping in a van, all that stuff. It's great fun. Getting out of home, getting out of your hometown. Yeah, it's an adventure, totally. Join a band and see the world.
When you were starting out, I read that like the Clean would practice like 3 days a week, and you would be very obsessive about it. Can you tell when a band is like over rehearsed, and do you think it like hurts the quality of the music?
Yeah, sure. In a live situation, yeah. Well, I can have that opinion about a band. I might be wrong though, but yeah, sure. I don't like super slick polished stuff. Then other times I do. It depends, really. Yeah.
You like some very polished things? Anybody in particular?
Sure. Well, not really. Just a tight band. There's something good about it. But other times it can be boring, really.
I think we obviously have a place in our hearts for, I don't know, almost a proto-slacker rock that kind of just out the gate doesn't sound too produced or anything.
It's sloppy.
Yeah. Feels honest.
I like sloppy, loose stuff. I do, yeah. I like to see a band, some loose edges and the swinging a bit, and there's an edge. Maybe it's called an edge. Yeah, for sure. It's pretty soulless just seeing a band and they just hit it every time, and they've got the patter down between the songs. It's just bam, bam, bam. The light show's great, and ching, 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 ching. Sure, I mean that can be fun, but every night, no.
But there's something to be said about the connection between sloppy rock and the idea that these people can't have jobs either. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna play like slacker rock, you're probably not gonna be great in the office.
Yeah. Not a big career option.
No. Like you probably don't iron your shirts, or like you probably don't remember to pack lunch or anything like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you do though. You were early for this.
That's true.
Meeting,
it seems like everyone just realizes now you have to have a job if you're going to be a musician. Like it's just part-time job, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because when we were talking to Steve Albini, he was like, "Get a fucking job. Don't rely on music to make money." And I mean, when you were growing up and buying records and like seeing like Jimi Hendrix and like this rock star, it was very new. Like the having a life in music was a new idea, and now like 50 years later, a life in music seems impossible for a lot of people.
Yes, it's just different times, completely and utterly different times for musicians and art. Yeah, sure. I mean, it was even it seemed like it was a novelty to me, back in the 70s to think, you could become an artist, let alone a musician. I realised it was hard and quite difficult, but a real novelty. Not so much these days.
Do you think it says a lot for the power of music in people's lives that they would continue to make it even though it's really difficult to find a way to support yourself?
Yeah. It's like medicine for people, really. Self-medicating with music in some ways. But I think, for some people it's also a cry of love, a cry for love. Okay, I've got something to say, come on over, whatever. Pretty basic human stuff, but yeah, important, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's this Nick Cave quote where he says, like musicians are like the laziest bastards ever because all they have to do is write 12 songs every 4 years. But like in a way, like Nick Cave stopped writing songs too. Like if his new album is just like him talking over keyboards.
Yeah.
You know, what do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Horses for courses, I guess, but yeah. Are we lazy? I think we need. Well, I need time to daydream. You know, it's the spaces between. It's those spaces between when you're working, where the work's writing or trying to come up with stuff. It's those spaces which are really important. So maybe that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, in American culture, especially, it's very downtime is kind of frowned upon. It's very like hustle culture. Any hobby you have, you need to figure out how to monetize. And I feel so connected to what you said about the importance of the in-between, because that's when creativity happens. That's when you're able to open your heart and mind.
Yeah, like there's this horrible Dolly Parton commercial where she revised her 9 to 5 song to 9 to 9. So like Americans are supposed to work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah. It's that whole thing. What'd you do? What are you doing? What's going on? What's going down? Come on. What are you doing? Well, I've been doing too much recently. Yeah. I'll be doing stuff all the time.
Yeah, maybe we need a better word.
There's a good quote from John Lennon that's wasting time's not wasting time. And I agree with that for sure.
There's like this idea that the phone and social media, all these things are killing daydreaming, and I completely agree with you that to be an artist you have to like stare out the window and just kind of go into a trance. I mean, this is like a trance killer, this thing.
Your screens really are a creativity killer. Heard an interview with some psychologist, I think, some big study recently, and they did ask this person, does it suck creativity? And just absolutely, definitely, 100%, yeah. So after hearing that, I've really cut back on screen time. Not a big phone guy, but screens. They're really hard to get away from these days, really hard. Less daydreaming, absolutely. Less time just to think about stuff. Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, like your whole musical output is this idea of like trying to get the listener into a trance. So that's what it seems to me, where you're trying to create an environment where like a person can think, and music that it's like your idea about self-medicating in music, like that is definitely true in your own songs as well. Like just creating these like spacey chord progressions that just go over and over and over again and kind of wash over you.
I'm just trying to get people a feeling, feel something authentic, perhaps. Yeah, but it is mellow. There's a drone through everything. There's always a drone there.
How do you get that drone? Is it just like chord tunings or like I'm curious about that.
There's been a lot of open tunings the last few records, but there's always been open tunings there for sure. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I love drones. I love droning.
Me too. That's why we started this podcast, to drone on.
Are you both musicians? Do you both play?
Yeah, I play, and
I do like graphic design and management, and I've run a label for a few years, and
cool.
I work at a record store. Just involved. I like music. I'm just not good at making it.
Okay.
Oh, the record store is Vinyl Tap. It's half record store, half bar.
Cool. Nice idea.
Yeah. Come by sometime.
Yeah, I'll be back maybe next year. I've got a very dear friend there, Matt Swanson, the bass player in Lamb Chop. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I'll be
awesome.
back.
Yeah. Would you ever record here again?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. I'd like to record with Mark Nevers again, but I think he's moved to Florida. But yeah, I'll be back one day. Sorry, go on.
Oh, well, I just wondered if you thought, so it seemed like the first music that you put out is pretty, I don't know,
lo-fi.
Inexpensive. Yeah, lo-fi. and more focused on the vibe and the songs, not so much production and things like that. I wondered if you feel like that's a good place for bands to start.
I think, again, it's up to the individual, but, that the first release we had, Tally Ho, that was a bad experience, and it sounds pretty bad. Even we mastered that, and it still sounds pretty bad. So that was a learning curve for us to go into a studio, That was the first time we'd gone into a studio, although we'd been recording ourselves on a wee 2-track. We weren't going out of our way to sound trashy. We just wanted to sound authentic, really. And then, later on, we did Boodle, and Great Sounds Great, and we were recording on a 4-track. We were still trying to do it as best as we possibly could. We weren't actually chasing a garage aesthetic, although we understood that whole thing and the whole, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we were trying with limited budgets and limited gear, but we worked out that the Beatles recorded Sergeant Pepper using 4 tracks, not realizing they probably had a few 4 tracks, and they had guys in lab coats walking around with screwdrivers. And we thought, well, that Beatles stuff sounds fantastic. Well, why can't we do that with 4-track? I mean, that was one of the ideas anyway.
I read this great quote from you where you said that an artist should always be becoming.
Yeah.
Do you feel like with everything that you put out, do you feel like you're different?
Every time that I put something out?
Yeah. Because if you're becoming, then you're always
I think when
changing.
I'm making stuff or recording it and you're getting good stuff down, there's a feeling of that. Okay, yeah, we're moving along now, Because there's always those periods of just nothingness for a while, perhaps. Finally, something will happen. It's like, stepping on, moving on. I'm just continually trying to come up with something next. If that makes sense.
How do you deal with the nothingness?
I'm lucky enough to have the spare time to think about stuff and just to potter around and, do that stuff, I suppose.
What does all that nothingness look like?
Which nothingness are you talking about?
When the songs aren't coming, or you don't have any ideas, how do you deal with that?
Recently I went through a period of 2 years of kind of nothing, but I try. I've been, because of COVID, I've been at home, so been trying to write every day or do something every day, art or music, and nothing really, nothing too interesting. It was an interesting period. It kind of bugs me. But you can't fight it, and you can play with it. You can go, okay, I'll ignore it. Maybe it'll come knocking, or maybe I should be working on it. Maybe I should be doing both, or maybe I should go for a drive, or maybe I should just leave town for a year. Maybe I should grow a beard. Maybe I should get really fat, or maybe I should get really healthy. I don't know, anything to write a song, really. But it's a real drag. I mean, it's just, I guess I'm so used to doing it, it becomes a drag when I don't like the stuff I'm writing, yeah. I'm always writing stuff, but I just don't like it half the time. We all like to think that the next record's going to sound a bit different, or, every record sounds a wee bit different, but, you find out about 10 years later, really. When you listen back to stuff, you go, okay, wow, I'm all right. Yeah. Strange life, it's a really strange life, really. When everything comes out, your whole, well, everyone's living comes out of their heads, but, to come up with stuff all the time. It's like, really? Do I have to come up with something again? Oh, well, I suppose I should.
Have you experimented with other forms of expression than music?
Well, you paint, right?
Oh, I paint a bit, yeah. No, just painting. I paint a wee bit.
That's a nice thing.
But it's good to be in the mood, though, Yeah. What
about lyrics? I mean, on Bobby's a Girl, there's a lot of tracks that don't have lyrics. So I was wondering, are you...
I've often toyed with the idea of making an instrumental-only album, like The Clean have talked about it, and I've
that would be awesome.
thought about it. And I think this is the closest we got to it with this one. Bobby's a Girl. Quite a lot. There's always instrumental stuff there. Just do one instrumental record, I suppose. Yeah, I do love instrumental music.
It's really in nice right now too.
Is it really? It's nice to have a break from blah 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 blah. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe instrumental music's done because of that. Maybe we're just not inundated with information all the time, right?
Yeah.
Or less blah blah, more music.
Yeah, I'm trying to groove. I'm just trying to chill.
Yeah.
I would love to hear an instrumental album from The Clean.
That would be amazing. You should do it.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, I mean, as far as lyrics go, like working with Sam Hunt, did that up your game? Did you feel like you learned anything about writing lyrics from that guy? Because the lyrics on those, a lot of stuff. Yeah, the lyrics on those records are beautiful, I think.
I learned a lot from Sam. He's a big topic. He's like a mountain. What did I learn lyric-wise from Sam? I think recently his stuff's been quite kind of brief in some ways. I don't know. I think Sam's another topic all on his own, really. I think just being with Sam and getting to know him was super influential, really, in some ways. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good question. But great working with him. I think when he finally came down to record here in Dunedin, we did everything live with them. We definitely had to up our game because everything was on the spot. We made up pretty much everything on the spot, and he's a really hard worker. It was just bang, bang, bang. What do you want to do? Sent now. What do you want to go, go? So it was like really intense working with him, but really great. So yeah. I learned lots from Sam, but yeah, it's a big topic. He's just a really wonderful guy. He really is. With an incredible knowledge of poetry and literature. Amazing.
Are you a big reader?
Go on.
Are you a big reader yourself?
Not really. I mean, I read a lot of books about music, but no, I'm not a big reader. Not really. Not these days. I used to when I was a kid. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite books about music? I would love to get some recommendations.
Oh, one of my favorite books, just because it's so interesting and it's a great topic and so well written, was Andrew Luke Oldham's books on the Rolling Stones. I think there's 3. I think the last one was looking here. The last one might have been an online one, but those first 2 books on the Stones are absolutely amazing. It's just an incredible writer. Really puts you there. So many books. I'm just looking at a pile over here at the moment.
I'm guessing you've read David Byrne's book, How Music Works.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
no.
I would highly recommend that.
It's in our library, actually. I keep seeing it there. It's one of those ones I will get one day. So you like that?
I did. I liked it a lot. A lot of different perspectives on what music is and why we are drawn to it and why it is the way it is now. And it's great.
Yeah. Where's it going to go? But does he have any idea? Does he have any idea on the future?
He more kind of helps guide your mind through helping you contextualize music and how it's received and how it changes in response to its audience. So it kind of just gets you in that mindset so you can kind of play with your mind.
Oh, sounds great.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll check it out. I can't think of any other books here right now, but I've just read so many.
So one of the hallmarks of your life in music, it seems, is collaboration, whether it's The Clean or, with your band now or with Sam Hunt, like all these different eras, or with Lamb Chop on Frozen Orange. Like, how do you become a good collaborator? Is that something that you had to learn, or is that something that is innate?
I think for me it was I've got to feel something with the people. There's got to be a connection of something. There's got to be friends, or there's some kind of connection. I think that's the main thing, really. The other thing is actually having the guts to wear your heart on your sleeve with someone you might not know super well, or and you just show them stuff, and vice versa. That's tough for some people. I've got to be a bit, obviously pretty good at doing that. But some people do have trouble with that, sharing their, really raw, basic ideas with each other. If you can get over that, you're well on the way to doing something. But that's a tough one.
Do you have anybody in your circle that says like, that's the worst idea ever, or that song is terrible?
Clean, definitely. We're pretty honest with each other. If something's really bugging somebody in the band or the engineers I work with, it'll be subtly said, I'll be told somehow in a very, really nice way. Or, sometimes a lot of people are aware of perseverance. We persevere with an idea you think is bad. Sometimes you just got to let people go with that, and it can be quite surprising. That was bad. That idea you had this morning suddenly sounded really great tonight. That sort of stuff. So you've got to be open to anything, really.
You have such a good vibe. It's been so easy to talk with you. So I can imagine collaborating with you is really fun.
Great.
I'm sure we only have a couple more questions for you, but I'm very curious. Just judging by our conversation and your body of work, it seems like you view your career in music as just kind of a journey, a constant sort of happening. And I wondered what advice you would have or words of encouragement for people maybe in the middle of their creative pursuits.
It's the same old cliches. If you really, really care about it, do it. Keep doing it if you really love it. But at the same time, you got to be reasonably sensible.
That's hard to do.
Yeah. I think if you do something, you just got to do it. You just have to do it. If you have to do it, you got to do it. Really.
How do you describe the feeling of when you've finished a song? What does that feel like?
It's relief.
Do you know you're done?
I can still do it.
Have you had one of those recently?
It's kind of like in some ways it's like sustenance, It's like energy to get that back. It's just a relief, really. Great. I like this.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
It's been fun.
It's been super fun.
Thank you. And, maybe I'll be in Nashville next year, and if I'm around, and hopefully we'll see each other or something.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. We would love that.
Yeah, we're around. We're having Kurt and Mary on the podcast soon, so maybe we can all hang out.
Them?
Yeah.
Do you know them? Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Any questions you would ask them?
Do they still love me?
We'll ask for sure. Yeah, Mary is my idol.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, the darling people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his new album is fantastic. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but man.
Oh yeah, I've been enjoying what he's been doing. It's been great.
Yeah, it's so really good. Funky. It's funky and weird, and
it's going out there.
Yeah, it's out there.
That's one nice thing about getting older. No one really cares anymore. You just go as far out as you want now, really.
Yeah, that's true. Out. Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Devalued. For more information about our podcast, please visit devalued.show.